Hello and welcome. I'm Eric Scott, and I want to talk to you today about visual journals. Maybe you really know what visual journals are, or maybe you have no idea what they are, and you just did a search and you discovered this video and you'd like to know a little bit more about them. But let me first introduce myself. Like I said, my name is Eric Scott. I'm a mixed media artist. I live in Virginia in the United States, and I've been doing visual journaling now for a long time, for about 20 years. I might be better known as one half of the journal Fodder Junkies, along with my very good friend David Modler. I've written a couple books about visual journals, and I've presented all over the place about journaling and about art. I used to be an art teacher. Now I'm focusing more on my own art and giving workshops, including online workshops. So anyway, 20 years ago, David introduced me to the visual journal, and I've been keeping journals ever since. I think I'm currently on volume number 26. So it takes anywhere from 6 months to a year and 6 months to fill one. And for me, a visual journal, it really is an everything book. I mean, I put everything into my journals. I draw, I paint, I collage, I put things in there from whenever I travel. Everything kind of goes in there. And it really, I think, becomes a very true and very authentic kind of way of scrapbooking or documenting what's going on. The way I see it, a visual journal is very different than a sketchbook. I grew up keeping sketchbooks. When I was in college, I got like my first, what I would call real sketchbook, a nice big 11 by 14 inch hardbound journal. And in a sketchbook, I always think that it's more about sketching, it's about drawing. Usually it's very limited materials like a pencil or a pen, maybe some charcoal, something like that. But it's more about kind of coming up with ideas or documenting ideas or planning for artwork. And when I was in school, it was really, a sketchbook was much more teacher driven and not so much student driven. So in a journal, yeah, there is drawing and there is planning, there is documentation, but it's more mixed media. At least my approach to visual journals is much more mixed media than my sketchbooks that I had kept for the longest time. And also, I look at visual journals as being rather different than an art journal. A lot of people keep what they call art journals, and the main difference is that I feel like with an art journal, you're trying to make art in it. So you're looking or trying to have every page to be very artful and to be a developed piece of art. Whereas a visual journal, the emphasis is on the journal part, and yes, it's visual. It includes color and paint and collage, but it's not so much about making art as it is about documenting life, about documenting ideas. But really with an art journal, like I said, the focus tends to be on making art on every single page. And I've even heard of artists who cut their art journals apart and sell the pages. And to me, that seems very odd, because I would never cut apart my journals, because they are very personal. So I'm not saying that art journals aren't personal, but I think a lot of the people who do keep them tend to see them as more an art form. Now I could see with some of my pages making prints, taking a photograph or scanning them and making prints, but I can't imagine cutting up my journals and selling them. So yeah, a journal I see is very different than a sketchbook, even though I do use a sketchbook. So I usually buy a blank sketchbook and do my journaling in it. And it's very different than an art journal. So for me, like I said, it's an everything book, but that everything book really has a purpose. And I really feel like the visual journal is a tool. It's a tool for life, and it's a tool for living. It's a tool for figuring things out. I think the journal allows you to dig deep. It really allows you to figure out who you are, what you want, because you're not only documenting your everyday or documenting your travels or documenting, where you ate lunch, you're also documenting those ideas. You're doing a lot of reflecting. It allows you to really go deep. Even the art side of it allows you to kind of think visually, but then also as you're kind of engaging in those things, in those art making activities, you really get into this mindset where you're really reflecting and you're really thinking. And so the journal helps you dig deep, and it helps you discover your stories, to uncover your stories, to figure out what's really important to you, and what you want to say, what you want to talk about, what you might want to make art about. And it really allows you to connect to your creativity, because really there aren't any rules in the journal. It's not about making art, it's about making connections. And connecting with your creativity is a lot easier when you give yourself that permission to experiment and to play and to try different things out, and you don't get so attached to a project, or it has to look a certain way or be a certain way. And because of that, I really feel like the journal has a lot of transformative power. It is a tool for transformation. I know in my own personal life. Now, I'm not a certified art therapist, so I'm not giving you any kind of therapy or therapeutic advice about this. But I know personally, and then also from talking with a lot of other people, that the visual journal really is transformative. If you really engage it with it, if you really take that deep dive, if you really use it to all its potential, it can really transform your life. And I look at my own life, and over the last 20 years, it's amazing how my life has changed. And I really do credit it to the visual journal. And because of that, I don't look at the journal as a product, a project. I've talked to people, and I hear people say, "Oh yeah, I did a journal once," and I was like, "Once?" I'm like, journaling to me is a verb. You continue to do it. You just do it. It's not something that you pick up and put down, one time. It's not a project that you try. Now, maybe journaling isn't for everyone, and I'm not saying that it is, but I think a lot of people look at the journal as a project to get finished instead of a process. So if we can really dive into the process of journaling, that's where that transformative power of the journal really exists. And for me, the journal isn't a place for complex materials or complicated techniques. It's about simple materials and simple techniques and simple ideas, but by engaging in it on a regular basis, and by exploring the ideas and the themes that are important to you personally, it really leads to a very profound discovery. It really is a profound thing. When you look at the separate parts of a journal, and you look at the techniques, and you look at the writing and the reflecting, they're simple in their nature. They're simple to do. But the effect is very profound whenever you sort of add it all up together. And I think that's where the power of the journal really is, that if we get so caught up in a new technique or a new material, or we get caught up in trying to make art, then we can really miss the boat and not discover this profound nature of the journal. And so really the journal isn't about the techniques and the materials that we use. It's really about documenting, like I mentioned that before, documenting our lives, documenting our thoughts, documenting what's happening with us, the things that we're going through. It helps us deal with that kind of stuff. And it's about discovering. So when we document these things, and we start to document our thoughts and our ideas, and we start to see the themes that are coming up, we start to see what we're excited about, we start to see what's kind of giving us some trouble. And so the journal helps you discover who you are, and what you're about, and what you're interested in, and what you want to pursue. It's amazing that this book of blank paper can have such a wonderful and such a profound effect on a life. But I've seen it, like I said, personally, and with many, many other people who have told me that how profoundly their lives have been changed. So you don't have to be an artist to do a visual journal. Yeah, you might engage with some art making materials, but I think we all like to use our hands. We want to create something. We want to create meaning, and I think that's kind of like the last thing the journal does, as it being a process and not a product. And I think that is kind of like the last really important thing about the journal, that I know in my life that it's really helped me figure things out and create that meaning and create that understanding. And so it works for anybody, and it can work for anybody. And again, I think that's why it's such a profound thing. Yeah, so just wanted to kind of share some thoughts and then show some pages and do some flip throughs of some of my journals. And I just hope that you enjoyed this short little video and got a little bit of information about what a journal is, what a journal can do, and just to kind of see how I do it and how maybe it's a little bit different than how others do it. So thank you so much for joining me in this little talk about visual journals, and I hope you enjoyed taking a look and taking a listen. So thank you so much, and as always, happy creating.